Alright, so this assignment is a little interesting, but it's kind of fun. And at first glance, you might say, what does this have to do with anything? But compositing an image basically means I'm taking someone's face and putting it onto something else. Or not even a face, but taking two images and combining them together. So in this picture, I've taken my face and put it onto Little Pharaoh for Step Brothers, and my coworker's face to put onto his. Maybe you didn't catch that at first, but there it is. So this comes in handy if you're into photography and someone says, hey, can you throw this in the picture? Or you always hear, hey, can you Photoshop me in the picture? That's what they're talking about, taking someone and throwing them in there. I have had to take family photos with 20 people, and there's always that one person that's not smiling or their eyes are blinked, but the rest of the picture is perfect. What I can do is take two images, one of the person smiling with their eyes open and one not, and take that smiling picture and put it on top of the other one. Works out perfectly and you can't tell the difference. So what you have to do is, in your directions, you need to find a picture that you want to composite. Celebrity pictures are fun, but you don't have to. You could do a sibling or your friend. And you need to take a picture of yourself in that exact same angle and direction that they are looking at. It will not work out well, and it'll look very, very strange if you're looking off into a different direction. So I had to take this picture with a little bit of a cock to my head, same smile. You want it to be a very seamless transaction. Okay, here's another one that I did of me as Napoleon Dynamite, and again, my coworker. I did Kip as well with my other coworker, but it's not on this picture. So unfortunately, I make a really good Napoleon. Okay, so another example. This little fella is Brett. He is one of my students, and he allowed me to turn him into Princess Leia. Wow, made a really good Princess Leia. So here's him, the picture that I used. Here's Princess Leia, and here's the final piece. Okay, so in Photoshop, you need to open up both of these images, one of yourself and one of the person that you're doing. Make sure it's a good quality. Make sure the image is large. You'll notice that this is at 16%. So this is really, really, really big. I just took it straight from my phone. And to open up those images, you go to File, Open, and click the pictures that you need. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these so we can just focus on the ones that we want. All right, so let's start off. In your photograph of yourself. Now, mine is in color. She is in black and white. So what I'm going to do is convert this image to black and white. I'm going to go to Edit. Sorry, just kidding. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and go to Desaturate. And it puts it in grayscale. Perfect. What I'm going to do now is I am going to use the lasso tool, and I'm going to select Brett's head. Now, I don't have to get it perfect, because what I'm going to do, instead of trying to match it perfectly, I'm going to end up erasing a lot so it's well blended. I've selected his head with the lasso tool. Now I'm going to go to Control-C to copy this selection. I'm going to go to Princess Leia, and I'm going to paste it. You could do Edit, Paste, or I can do Control-V as in Victor, and it pastes them in there. So notice the difference between the size. Brett is huge. So I'm going to resize him, and you guys will probably have to do this. Edit, Free Transform. You're probably familiar what this looks like, and all you have to do is click and drag. Drag from the corners so it doesn't change it crazy. I'm holding on Shift so the height and the width doesn't adjust on me accidentally. And I want to try to adjust it to about the same size. Now what I'm going to do, it's hard for me to see how well it matches without lowering the opacity. Okay, so over here are my layers. I have my background layer, which is Princess Leia, and I have Brett, which is layer 1. Opacity, I'm going to drag that down to like 50%, 43%. And now what I want to do is try to match the eyes. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Okay, so that way I know that the facial features are aligned. I'm going to zoom in a little bit with Control+. So hopefully I can get a lot of this aligned. His mouth is a little bit higher. And what I can do is actually adjust his face. You'll notice that his ears are way out here and hers are pinned in. So I can alter his face quite a bit. And same thing with the chin. So it might change up his face structure a little bit, but it's going to look pretty good in a few minutes. Now he has a little bit of a different face shape, so I'm going to leave his chin down there. The eyes and the facial features are probably what's most important to line up. And the eyes are about on top of each other. I think we're good. Alright, so I'm going to set that free transform by hitting enter. And now what I want to do is adjust the color a little bit, because you'll notice that this grayscale is off a little bit, and doesn't have a high contrast. So image adjustments, brightness, contrast, and you'll have to do this to adjust the skin tone. You might have to lighten up your skin, darken it. I'm going to bring up the contrast. So I want his skin tone and the contrast of it to match pretty well, and that means bringing up the contrast quite a bit. Alright, so that's pretty close. Bringing down the contrast just a little bit. Alright, the easy part now is actually to erase the skin. So I'm going to click on the eraser tool. Right now it's at 100% erasing, so it's going to erase quite a bit when I want it to, which might be good for the areas you absolutely know don't need to be in there, like that. But when you get to the skin, you want it to kind of like be blended in to the skin that's underneath. So to do that, you have to lower the opacity so it gradually erases it. You'll notice I have this hard line. That's not going to be good. So I clicked on my brush options, and I'm using the softer edge. And that's going to be more well blended. I'm going to lower or raise the opacity just a little bit so this doesn't take too long. So I want to keep erasing his head and the areas I don't want. You really get that. I can clean up those edges here in a minute. But I want to keep erasing him until I start to get her skin that's underneath. Her hairline, all those things that are pretty important. I'm going to go ahead and erase his ears. And you'll start to see that his head is starting to fit in his head shape pretty well because I've made sure to line up those facial features. So you'll start to see that this is a little bit off. You want to be careful not to get in the eyebrows. Really take your time. If you have to adjust your brush to get into the little crevices of the face, that's fine too. Erasing his hoodie. And I want to be careful with the chin area because I noticed that his chin was a lot longer. But I think it looks good. So I already have brought a little bit. I'm using the arrow tool and just my keyboard to move things around to get his face a little bit more centered. And now I'm going to use the eraser tool at a high opacity to get rid of all the excess stuff that I couldn't get to. So I literally got this done in maybe 5 minutes, and there's a lot of work that I could get to it, but your goal with this is to have a picture that you have to look at it for about 5 minutes and say, oh, that's not actually Princess Leia. That's weird. That's kind of creepy. You want it to be super seamless. I have this picture hanging on my wall at school, and people walk by it all the time, and they have to stare at it, and they are highly confused and disturbed with what they see. So there we have it. Brought as Princess Leia. The color matches. I've used the eraser tool at a low opacity to make sure it's well blended into the skin. His face is looking in the same direction. And I can look at the before and after. This little eye tool allows me to see the layer and to not see the layer. So if I get rid of it, whoop, there she is before, there's Brett. Before, after, before, after. Kind of funny, right? When you are completely done, this is very important. You need to flatten your image. Right now, it's going to save it with 2 layers, but I want this to be 1 layer. So all I have to do is up here in your little arrow, you can click on that and hit flatten image, or you can hit Control E a few times, that'll merge the layers, and that's all it does. It puts the 2 together. Okay? So now I go to File, Save As. Save it as whatever you want, so let's just call it Princess. Saved as a JPEG, perfect. Hit Save. Now this, you want to keep it at your maximum, so if you have to move it around, do that. That just has to do with the quality. And hit OK. And then you guys are just going to submit it in your assignments. Again, make sure it's a seamless transaction, so it should look really, really realistic and maybe a little concerning. All right, have fun with it. Bye.